Hello everybody, Maven here, and you're farming the Grandmaster. I don't even have to ask if you are, I know you are. The Adept Palindrome is back, one of the most sought after weapons of all time, so it's just a pure fact that every D2 player is going to be farming the Grandmaster, so I thought I would make this video on some of the best builds on all three classes to farm this week's GM. And I'll leave timestamps to all of these builds down below, and let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. Alright, so just as an FYI before we begin, I can't go super in depth on each of these builds. Like, I can't go over every single individual fragment and mod and everything like that because we have 8 total builds to cover today, quite a bit, so I'm gonna have to keep it brief on every single one of these. So with all that said, let's kick things off here with the Titan. Now I'm gonna let you know right now, if you are not a Titan player, do yourself a favor and be a Titan player. It's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. But then some of you may be like, well, Maven, Titan is my least played character. I don't have much exotics or any good armor on my Titan. Well, it does not matter because this first build, this Arc Titan build, is extremely accessible even if you barely play Titan, because the exotic on this build really does not matter that much in the slightest. Personally, I'm using the Hazardous Propulsion, the chest piece where if you get precision hits or kills, it loads the Exodus rockets. You deploy your barricade, it deploys those rockets. They seek towards enemies and do a pretty decent amount of damage, but it's not too relevant. Another popular option is something like the Mask of the Quiet One or even the Heart of the Most Light. You can literally use any exotic or even no exotic because all that matters on this Arc Titan build is Storm's Keep and Lemon Arc. Storm's Keep and Lemon Arc are the only two pieces of the puzzle that make Arc Titan broken right now. The Storm's Keep aspect is quite possibly the most broken thing since pre-nerf Banner of War. It's the thing where you put your rally barricade, you sit behind it, you gain bolt charge, your allies also gain bolt charge, and you just start sniping things from afar with like free infinite bolt charge, and you guys just literally obliterate everything. This is probably the build that I'm going to be farming this Grandmaster with all week, and I recommend that you do as well if you can. And to pair along with that, we are using the Lemon Arc, which is not only good on any class right now because it's overload and there's a lot of overload champions in this, but you pair that along with the Volatile Marksman artifact mod, specifically with the boost. So you go into your Tome of Want and you should have the Volatile Marksman boost unlocked by default. So just activate a Ritual of Desire and it should boost that Volatile Marksman, and it should make it so when you apply volatile explosions, it's going to give you back class ability energy. And that's how, like when you're watching a bunch of speedruns right now and you see Titans getting back their rally barricade extremely quick and they can spam like multiple of them in a row, that's how. And the reason that Lemon Arc is so good with this is because Lemon Arc does that poison damage, and that poison damage is going to rack up your stacks of bolt charge quicker. And that's what makes this build so broken in Episode Heresy. So to quickly break down the rest of our subclass, our other aspect is Knockout, and for our fragments we got Ions, Amplitude, Resistance, and Frequency. And here's a quick screenshot of my mod setup if you want to pause the video. Nothing too special going on here. And for my stat distribution, I got triple hundreds in Resilience, Discipline, and Strength. Now for my loadout, in my kinetic slot, I am running the Rake Angle with Chill Clip. Quick editor's note, that was past Maven speaking. Don't listen to past Maven. This is future Maven. Listen to future Maven. So this is the loadout you actually want to use. Throughout the duration of the video, you're going to hear me mention several times, use a Chill Clip Fusion or a Glaive and use whatever heavy you want. Don't listen to that. This is the loadout. Use anti-barrier sniper rifle. Now, yes, there are no barrier champions, but it shoots right through the boss's immune shield. So it's very good for DPS. So use a Supremacy or a Praetor's Revenge or whatever DPS role sniper you want to run, and then use a linear fusion rifle or Unstoppable. Using this loadout, I was able to consistently pump out 10 to 11 minute runs, and you'll see at the end of the video, just as proof, we get a 1042. So use this, and now let's resume with the video. And that amount does it for the Arc Titan build, and now we have one more Titan build to go over before moving on to the Hunter, and this is going to be the typical Inmost Light Synthoceps Consecration spam build on Prismatic that I'm sure you are all aware of and probably tired of. And if you're not familiar with this build, I'd be shocked because it was the meta for like the entire past year. So this is a tried and true build, and even though Consecration received like, what was it, like a 52% damage nerf, this build is still very, very strong. And it's pretty good in Hypernet Current here because of the ad density. There's a lot of dense ad sections, like in the Tormentor section and in the boss room and the room before the boss room. And with the combination of our Lost Signal Grenade Launcher along with Glacier Grenades, that's going to make it very, very easy to get our Dark Transcendent Energy charged. And then with Lemon Arc and our Consecration spam, that's going to make it very easy to charge our Light Transcendent Energy. So the idea of this build is just spam Transcendence. Start throwing those suspending nades everywhere and just slam everything, and it works wonders. And once again, your heavy weapon doesn't really matter. I'm probably going to swap over to an Eager Edge Sword just to get around quicker. Now here is our subclass setup. We got Consecration and Knockout, Protection, Balance, Ruin, Courage, and Purpose. Now, when you're running Ruin, you want to run the Twilight Arsenal Super. That's not what I was doing in the background gameplay. I made a last-second swap. I go back and forth depending on the activity, and I swapped it over to Purpose with Twilight Arsenal. Typically, though, I go with Dawn with Thunder Crash, but it really depends on the activity. But for this boss, I think Twilight Arsenal is going to do you a lot better, so don't do Thunder Crash like I did in the gameplay. So here is our mod setup geared towards melee spam. That's why we got triple heavy-handed with Absolution and Invigoration. We want to thruster around enemies whenever we get the chance to scoop up those orbs with Powerful Attraction, which is going to proc those boot mods, and Dynamo on the helmet. And with all the meleeing we're doing, we're procking hands-on on our helmet to give us a bunch of supers. And for our stat distribution, we once again have triple hundreds in Resilience, Discipline, and Strength. Now, just based off of how useful this build is in the boss room and the Tormentor room specifically, I'm considering using this build all week instead of the Storm's Keep build, but I'm really going to go back and forth between the two to determine which one I want to farm with. But they're both very, very top contenders. And like I said, if you are not a Titan player, you should be a Titan player and use one of these builds because they're going to help you out greatly with your runs. But you know, some of you guys are strictly Warlock or Hunter mains and refuse to play anything else. So with that being said, let's move on to the Hunter. The first of which is just old reliable Omnioculus. Now this is just generally a very solid Hunter build no matter what Grandmaster it is. This is like the default stock Grandmaster Hunter build right here. Infinite invis, you get double smoke bomb charges, you refund your smoke charges when you make allies invisible. It's good for reviving allies and just getting around making sure that you don't die. Now this is going to be a pretty solid build to run if you don't have a Storm's Keep Titan on your fire team, because a Storm's Keep Titan completely alleviates the need for heavy ammo. So you can just freely run Omnioculus, but if you don't have a Storm's Keep Titan and you need ammo, then you can just swap over to the Aeons so that you can perform heavy ammo finishers. Now both the Omnioculus and the Aeons build, they both have the same loadout, the same subclass, the same stats, the same mods, everything is the same. We're just swapping out the Omni for the Aeons depending on the situation. So the subclass setup for both of these builds is going to be Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step, Undermining, Obscurity, Starvation, and Persistence. And here is the mod setup for both of these builds. Nothing special going on here, pretty typical for this level of content, just trying to do special finishers wherever we can. And for the stat distribution on both of these builds, I recommend going double hundreds in Resilience and Strength and dumping the rest into Mobility. Now some of you might be curious why we have 100 Strength when we already have Gambler's Dodge for our Smoke Bomb. Well, you can choose not to run Strength if you want to and just dump it into Discipline instead. But personally, I found a lot more success in investing in Strength. Like at the time of recording this video, I have 1,011 Grandmaster clears, and I would say about 600 to 700 of those were done on Invis Hunter with 100 Strength. So trust me, it works. I know from experience. Now for our loadout with both of these builds, we have the Burden of Guilt with Chill Clip for Unstoppable Fusion Rifle, but you can also use a Glaive if you'd like. And then you guessed it, we got the Lemon Arc. No matter what character or what build you are running this week, I highly recommend the Lemon Arc. It's just the best weapon in this Grandmaster and also just in general right now because of Volatile Marksman. And make sure to enhance that thing with the Tome of Want on your Hunter as well. And then for our heavy, and especially on Aeons, I prefer prefer using machine guns on Hunter because when you're in the face of a champion and they're stunned, a machine gun allows you to burst them down and control their health to put them perfectly into finisher range so you can make that heavy ammo for your fire team. Now for our final Hunter build before moving on to Warlock, this is going to be our wild card Hunter build. This is going to be Lucky Pants, which just received a rework recently, so it's a lot less frustrating to use because if you accidentally swap to your hand cannon, you're not going to run out of luck until you actually fire the thing. And the reason why Lucky Pants is pretty decent here is because we are using the Malfeasance, which has the perk Taken Predator, where it does 25% more damage against Taken combatants, and this is a Taken based strike. And the boss is also Taken as well, so you're just going to be hitting really hard against the champions and the boss and pretty much everything when you have the Lucky Pants online. And not to mention, the Malfeasance also has intrinsic unstoppable, which is obviously pretty useful here. Now in the background gameplay, I'm not really doing the build justice because it's been a hot minute since I have used Lucky Pants, but I assure you it can be pretty solid here. Now our subclass setup is exactly the same as the other two builds, but our mod setup is going to be a tad bit different with Lucky Pants. It is geared more towards the surge mod, so we got time dilation, we have one kinetic surge, we also have one void surge. So there it is if you want to pause the video. And then for our stat distribution, it's the same as the other two, max and resilient strength, and dump the rest into mobility. And for our loadout, we got Malfeasance with the Unstoppable Glaive, but you can also run Unstoppable Fusion if you want, but you can even also just run a Sniper if you want, since the Malfeasance already deals with unstops. And then we have a machine gun, which I typically like to swap to while I'm waiting for that out of luck debuff from the Lucky Pants to run out. And that about does it for our Hunter builds, and now we are moving on to our Warlock builds. We got 3 here for the Warlock. And we have a thing going on here similar to the Hunter where we got 2 builds that are like our main 2 to swap between depending on the situation. And then we have our wild card build if you want to be interesting. So just like last time, if you have a Storm's Keep Titan on your fire team, then heavy ammo does not really matter because Storm's Keep's going to do all the heavy lifting. So in that case, you're going to want to run the Phoenix Protocol, where assists and kills in your well is going to give you more well energy. So you can basically spam wells back to back, especially if you got 2 Phoenix Protocols on your team. And so you just set up a well wherever somebody sets down a Storm's Keep and you just go ham on the ads. It's going to be easy to just murder everything and you're going to get your well back extremely quickly. And then on the other hand, when you don't have a Storm's Keep Titan on your fire team and heavy ammo actually matters, then you're going to run the Cenotaph mask along with Divinity so you can mark targets by hitting them with the trace rifle. When they die, you make a heavy brick for your fire team. Now our subclass setup on both Cenotaph and on Phoenix Protocol are going to be exactly the same. We have Touch of Flame with Hellion, with the healing nades, Incinerator Snap, Singeing, Searing, Benevolence, and Solace. Now for our mod setup with the Phoenix Protocol, this is what it's going to be. Since it's not an aggressive build and it kind of hangs back, we're not really trying to go do special finishers. So instead, we're just committing to triple Void Surges with time dilation to help out our Lemon Arc and our Hammerhead. Speaking of which, our loadout is going to be the same as it was on Hunter, Unstoppable Fusion, Lemon Arc, and Hammerhead. And for our stat distribution, I went double hundreds in Resilience and Strength and dumped the rest into Recovery. Now for our Cenotaph mask build, our loadout's going to be a little bit different, obviously, because we got to alleviate for having a Trace Rifle. We are using the Divinity, which has intrinsic overload, and our machine gun, we also have overload machine gun as well, double overload with no unstop. So we're basically just relying on either our teammates to provide unstop, or we can just cause ignitions between Hellion and Incinerator Snap and ignition stun unstoppables. So you're just going to Ceno mark everything with Divinity, and then our main way of actually killing things is going to be our machine gun, which we're going to basically main as a primary most of the time, and that's going to be the fixed odds with enhanced field prep and enhanced incandescent. When you enhance field prep and run 1 solar reserve with this thing, you hold like 490 ammo as a 360 RPM. So this thing is an absolute ammo machine. And then the hung jury just happens to be there just in case we run out of heavy ammo and we need to kill things from afar. And for our mod setup with this build, it's ammo that really matters. Like, we're relying on our machine gun to kill things. We're relying on our Divinity to mark things. So we have Solar and Arc Reserves and Solar and Arc Scavenger, as well as Special Finisher with a Proximity Ward setup. And for our stat distribution, it's the same as Phoenix Protocol, double hundreds in Resilience and Discipline, and dumping the rest into Recovery. Now moving on to our final Warlock build of the day. This is our wild card build. It is the Rime Rime-Coat Raiment, the exotic where you throw a Bleak Watcher, it creates crystals around it, which are very good for proccing Whisper of Shards, which is going to be our main method of Bleak Watcher spam. So more often than not, when you throw a Bleak Watcher, you want to throw it where you're standing rather than away from you, like at the enemies, so that you can like punch your crystals or shoot your crystals to get boosted grenade regen. And also, when you are standing within the vicinity of your Bleak Watcher, you get these little freezy shots. So even when you use your primary, they can cause slow and freeze, which can deal with both overloads and unstops. So you don't even need to run any anti-champion weapons because your Bleak Watchers do it for you. Now, I did cover this build several months ago when the Rime-Coat Raiment first came out, and I talked about synergies with the Fighting Lion. That was a pretty cool build, but now it is a little bit different today because of some changes in episode Heresy. So we are using the Cloud Strike with this build, a little bit of a wild card loadout compared to everything else we had today with Lemon Arc. But basically, we are trying to use the Cloud Strike as a primary. Now, I'm probably going to do a future build video on this build because I think that it deserves its own build video because it's pretty awesome. But to try to sum it up in a nutshell, is everything's frozen, so it makes it easy to land your Cloud Strike crits. And Cloud Strike got an update in episode Heresy, so when you get a Precision Final Blow, you get 5 stacks of Bolt Charge. And adding the Bolt Charge element into Stasis makes it feel like you're playing Arc Titan. And then also, Bleak Watcher damage counts as a grenade source. That's why I procs mods on your gloves, such as Bolstering Detonation and Momentum Transfer, but it will also proc that Bolt Charge when you get your 10 stacks. So not only are your turrets freezing things, but they're also jolting lightning at things, so it is pretty nasty. So it's just a very awesome concept, and you can never go wrong with Bleak Watchers and high-level content like Grandmasters. Now, like I just said, this is a very experimental loadout, so you can just stick with the typical Lemon Arc loadout if you would like to, but if you want to get a little crazy, you can run something like this. Now for our subclass, we have Ice Flare Bolts, obviously Bleak Watcher, and then Shards, Torment, Refraction, and Bonds. Now our mod setup on this one is geared towards having a lot of Cloud Strike ammo, so we got double Special Finders, Special Finisher, Arc Reserves, and Arc Scavenger. And for our stat distribution, it's similar to the Solar builds, double hundreds in Resilience and Discipline, dumping the rest into Recovery. And that is going to wrap up all 3 of our Warlock builds and the rest of our builds for the day. So that is 8 total builds. Like I said, I'll leave the dim loadout links for all 8 builds down below in the description and also the pinned comment if you'd like to try out any one of them. Again, my recommendation, do yourself a favor, go on Titan. It's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. And that about does it for the video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I tried to keep it brief. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found a new build to help you out in this week's GM. If you did, then maybe you can help me out in return by simply hitting that like button. It only takes a second and it really goes a long way. And if you are new here, it'd be awesome if you hit that subscribe button and stick around for more. And remember to check out our sponsor, Advanced GG. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off your order. Link to that's down below, and I will catch you in the next video. Good luck with your farming.